So we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your precious lunchtime with us here at Northeast Delta Human Services.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. We're just glad that you're here. So today we're going to talk about why it's important to start the conversation about substance abuse and underage drinking with the youth in your life, whether that's your children or children that you teach or your youth group, just any of the youth in your life. Okay, so a little bit about Northeast Delta Human Services Authority. Northeast Delta HSA, we direct and manage the operation of community-based programs to improve the quality of life of people with major mental illness, developmental disabilities, and addictive disorders. So we're devoted to deliver services that encourage people to reach their full human potential. Excellent customer service, great access to service, and competent quality care are the three tenets that guide our work. So this presentation or this lunch and learn today is being presented by the Office of Prevention and Wellness of Northeast Delta HSA. So we have Kara Etienne, who is the manager of our LeSOR grant. We also have Joyce Landrum, the mental health coordinator for prevention and wellness. She's over our contractor for signs of suicide. And then I myself, I'm Kayshana Hall. I am the coalition manager for the Opportunity Zone, whose main focus is the prevention of underage drinking. So we'll go ahead and get started with Joyce.
Good afternoon, everybody. In the interest of time, I may go through some of the slides a little bit quicker than others. I wanted to first highlight some statistics about substance abuse in youth. Just some quick facts, some that we probably already know, but alcohol, marijuana, and tobacco are substances most commonly used by adolescents. By 12th grade, about 2/3 of students have tried alcohol. About half of 9th through 12th grade students report ever having used marijuana. About 4 in 10 9th through 12th grade students reported having tried cigarettes. Among 12th graders, close to 2 in 10 reported using prescription medicine without a prescription. Although it's illegal for people under 21 years of age to drink, a lot of studies show that people from 12 to 20 years of age consume about 1/10 of all the alcohol consumed in the US. So just some kind of daunting facts about alcohol use. The risk of substance misuse among youth, again, a little bit more daunting than adults that use. Substance use can do the following. For teens, it can affect their growth and development, especially their brain development. It occurs more frequently with other risky behaviors such as unprotected sex, dangerous driving, contributes to the development of adult health problems. So these things start in youth, such as high blood pressure, heart problems, sleep disorders. And finally, the earlier the teens start using substances, the greater their chances of continuing to use these substances later in life into adulthood. So the possibility of addiction and abuse of substances later in life increases. How alcohol affects the teenage brain academically: lower grades, school absences, dropping out of school, withdrawal from hobbies. Also, if you look at lower scores on vocabulary and memory tests, again, going all back to that brain development and disturbing sleep cycles as well. All of that affects learning and memory. In a nutshell, some common reasons that adolescents try substances: boredom, peer pressure, social anxiety. They want to try new things, curiosity, boosting concentration, and controlling their weight, especially for girls. Okay, I'm just going to hit the high points on this slide. My information will be in the chat box later. But if you look quickly, because again, that brain development, drinking or smoking marijuana can help make hopelessness, anxiety, irritability, and negative thoughts kind of dissipate more quickly in teens. Teens also become addicted more quickly. This is especially true if they already have pre-existing mental health disorders. If they're not treated, almost half of kids with mental health disorders will end up having a disorder later in life. This makes it extremely hard to treat their mental health issues, and it also impacts their future. Let's go down to the bottom. Experts note that to encourage teens to reduce or stop substance use, it's important to give them other coping strategies, getting back to that talking, listening to them, to manage their problems without turning to substances. The importance, because again, like Kashana said, I teach signs of suicide. And so suicidality in teens that use substances, of course, that increases. Their visits to emergency rooms, a lot of times that was due to misuse of prescription drugs that they found in the house. The good news is a new CDC study suggests helping young people feel engaged and cared for at home and school can have substantial health benefits. Teens who felt connected to family and school were 65% less likely to use illicit drugs or misuse prescription drugs as adults. So again, that connection, talking, staying in touch with your teen. School connectedness, we talked about parental monitoring, parent-adolescent communication, that's open and honest communication from parent to adult and adult to child. So listen, having those honest conversations and getting them involved in positive youth development programs and activities is also a deterrent. There's the information for Northeast Delta HSA. Again, it was just a quick overview, but our information is available for future if you need to call.
If you take a look down in the chat box, I've placed all of our emails down there, as well as another resource that we'll get to a little bit later in our presentation. But Joyce, thank you so much. You did a wonderful job. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Up next, we have Kara Etienne that I mentioned. She's our manager for our LeSoar program, and she's going to talk to you more about what the program is. She actually offers Generation RX, as well as some more dangers of illegal use of substances.
Thank you so much, Kashana. Thank you, Joyce. So what I'm going to talk about today kind of piggybacks off of what Joyce just talked about, but my approach is specifically targeting opioids. Opioids, which are our prescription pain meds, also heroin, and then now one of the biggest trends that we're starting to see across the US is fentanyl and carfentanil, which are a synthetic opioid that's been created that is even more deadly. It's important, and one of the things that we're starting to educate about that is because now drug dealers or those who sell drugs are starting to cut, meaning they are mixing that into their product to make it stronger. And a lot of times most users don't know. And so Generation RX is one of the programs that we offer here on the LeSoar team and through the Department of Prevention and Wellness. It is an evidence-based program created by the College of Pharmacy at The Ohio State University and the Cardinal Health Foundation. The primary purpose of Generation RX is to educate people of all ages about the potential dangers of misusing prescription medications. And so the focus on this is to educate. We know that because of medication now, we are able to live longer. Lives have been extended. More acute illnesses or things that typically 50 or 60 years ago people were dying from, they are now able to live and sustain life. And those illnesses are now considered chronic as opposed to acute because of medications. So the point of this is not to say that all medication is bad. That's not what we're saying at all. However, any medication, even when it's intended for a good purpose, if it is misused and abused, it can become bad and be a danger. Studies have shown that our teens, our children, are more often than not to become engaged or have their first encounter with prescription medications in the home. That's if they go to their doctor and they're prescribed the medication themselves. It's there in the home. Or if someone else in the home has medication and they go in the medicine cabinet and decide that they want to try medication independently. So that's the purpose of this program, is to educate on safe storage and proper disposal of medication. It's also to educate them about the benefits of medication, what it's used for, the importance of using it appropriately, not sharing medication, and then allowing, especially for those that are underage, allowing that caregiver, that mom, dad, or grandma, or whoever is the adult that's responsible, um, allowing them to be the one to administer the meds to them as it has been ordered by their doctor. So, one of the things that we talk about is how to store medications. Medications should be stored in secure locations. Some things, such as secure locations, are lock boxes, medication safes, or other lockable spaces, locking them up. I know, and I'm not sure now, but I know in the past, homes were typically built with medicine cabinets. And so you go into the bathroom and you push the little mirror and it pops out, and that's where you were to store all of your medications, and there wasn't a lock on there. Well, I think the trends are starting to get away from that. And now more people either keep them on the dresser, on the bathroom counters, on the tables. If they're in the same place every day when they're taking their medication, they're having them there. And a lot of it is because of just ease of access. However, if there are children, and not even just children, but especially some of our stronger medications, those things need to be stored and locked away safely. I've had people to ask me, well, what about Tylenol? Does those have to be locked up? And we tell them now that yes, even Tylenol should be locked up. Now the trend that we're seeing with fake pills or these counterfeit pills, where they are taking any type of pill and they're breaking them down. They're adding those substances, like I mentioned, the fentanyl or the carfentanil, and they're cutting it with that or adding that to it and repackaging or rebranding it. You're thinking that you're getting a pill that looks like what they're telling you that it is, and it actually isn't. So locking and storing all medications out of the way is beneficial. You think about younger children or those with a developmental disability who are not aware of or have not learned the importance of not touching medication and not taking medications. We see a lot of accidental overdoses from children that have just gotten into medication and they were just playing with it. They didn't know what it was and they got into it. So it should be locked away the same way as they tell you all of your household cleaning, that you don't want to leave that under the sink unlocked like we have in the past to avoid accidents. And so it's the same thing with our medications. So think about not just putting away, but also putting away that even if someone were to find it, that they still could not just have easy access to it. I had someone say one time, well, what about if I just put it in a shoebox in the closet? Well, yeah, that works, unless you have someone that knows you have that medication and they are looking for it, and then they get to the shoebox in the closet, well, then they have complete access. It's important to make sure that you avoid storage places where children and others can easily access, what I was just talking about. So the drawers, the nightstands, or the kitchen cabinets. And I'm going to be honest, it's hard. Now that I'm sitting here and I'm talking and I'm thinking about it, I think I have about half of what I take on my bedside table. And that's not how that should be. I don't have little children, but I think about if someone comes in or comes to visit, or even if someone were to break in. I've had my home broken into before. They have access to my medication because it is not stored or put away safely. It is easily accessible and easily identifiable. So we have to think about those things. We also want to point out, and Generation RX also points out how to dispose of medications. We did a take back on last Friday, and I was talking to a lady, and she said, I have some Oxycontin in my drawer that they gave me when I had my daughter. And I said, well, how old is your daughter? And she said, she's 4. So she's had Oxycontin in the drawer for 4 years. And she said, well, it may not be effective anymore. I said, you would be surprised. And if someone got to it and they took what more than what they should, even if it's your child, if they got to it, then it could be harmful. So we need to start practicing that when medications are no longer being used. That's if we go to the doctor, they try medication out on us. 2 weeks later, we go back, they make a change. A lot of times when they change, depending on the dosage, it's not simply where you go from 2 pills to 1 pill. They're actually rewriting a new prescription because the dose amount in the pill may actually be different. And so we need to start practicing that once those things change or once we are no longer taking them, that we actually dispose of those medications, that we're not keeping them in the house. And this also goes for over the counter meds. I can't tell you how many times we do take back. We get just as much over the counter medication brought back, just as we do prescription medication being brought back. So you need to safely dispose of medications. We have drug drop boxes located throughout the region. We have several that have been placed here in Monroe, one at the Monroe Police Department and the other one on the ULM campus. And you can go to our website, delta.org, hsa.org, and also see the other locations that we have placed. Even though they're not ours, several of the pharmacies throughout the region, especially the larger ones, also have drop boxes placed there. So instead of just going through the drive-through, when you have old medications, start going inside and you can drop those old ones off while you're picking up your new ones. You also want to take advantage of community drug take-back programs. Those take place every October and April, and they're typically the last Saturday in the month from 10 to 2. If you follow us on our Facebook page and our other social media sites, you will see when we have them because we post. You will see where our locations will be. This year, we actually did 4 different locations. You will know the times and the places that we will be. And so that gives you the opportunity to prepare, gather up all those medications, and then drop them off to us safely, getting them out of the homes, keeping them safe. And if you don't have a drop box near you or you can't get to a drop box, I got a solution for that also. We provide Deterra, which is a medication deactivation pouch that you can use in your home. It's at no cost. I put my email in the chat box, so all you have to do is email me and we can get some to you. You can either come by the office and pick it up, or we can drop it off to you. It is simply a pouch that you are able to open, pour your medication inside, fill it with water, shake it, throw it in the trash. It is completely environmentally friendly. It's biodegradable. I tell people all the time, I've had people to say, well, I just flush it down the toilet. That's not what you should be doing. Not all medications are environmentally friendly and should not be flushed, especially if you have, I tell people if you have your own septic system at your house, because it'll cause damage to that. And then especially because our region is a more rural region and a lot of our towns have had issues with water, we don't want to put more strain on an already struggling water system. And we want to make sure that we are getting them out and disposed of properly. So again, the core messages of Generation RX is to only use prescription medications as directed by a health professional. Never share your medications with others or use someone else's. This is big and it's something that we hear about a lot, especially when I'm doing these classes. Always store your medications securely to prevent others from taking them. And then remember to dispose of them once they're no longer needed. And be a good example to those around you by modeling these practices, by modeling this behavior. Generation RX has developed all of these points that I've just explained to you into fun and interactive educational sessions for all age groups, specifically elementary, teen, college, and older adults. So if we come out and we provide this lesson, it's going to look a little different than what we just talked about or how I just presented it, because I just gave an overview of kind of what the high points are, what the key points are. But I'll give an example for the elementary age group. There's games that we play and that I lead the children through so that they can identify not taking medication from their friends if someone brings it to school, not taking something from someone that tells them it's candy and it does look like candy, but it really isn't candy. So we play a variety of different games. On the bottom of the screen here, you'll see some things aren't meant to be shared. And so you see a toothbrush, you see underwear, and you see a pill bottle. And so that's typically that we use with our elementary and our teen students. So because they know we don't share toothbrushes, we don't share underwear, and so we also don't share medication. It provides them things that they can relate to and ties those lessons into everyday activities that they're doing. We provide these lessons at no cost. So if you have any questions, if you want me to go over specifically what these lessons look like based on different age groups, I can. So just email me and we can discuss it further. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you all for having me today. Kayshana?
All right, thank you so much, Kara. Like Kara said, if you look in the chat box, her email is down there. I've also placed the link to our agency Facebook page, so you can, if you don't follow us already, go ahead and make sure you follow so you'll know when those prescription take back days are coming up and any other events that we may have. Kara, what Kara was talking about is super important because just like Joyce said, a lot of times these things, the first time that a youth tries something is in their house. So medication, safe medication disposal and storage is key. And also having that conversation about what to share and not to share. Like she said, the toothbrush and the underwear, it may seem funny, but they'll get your point, So thank you so much, Kara. You did an amazing job. So now I wanna talk a little bit about underage drinking. As Joyce mentioned, alcohol is one of the most widely used substances among America's teens and young adults. And it definitely poses substantial health and safety risk. So we actually do a survey. It's called the Louisiana Carry Communities Youth Survey. And the data shows that young people are consuming alcohol and illicit drugs as early as 6th grade. That's super early, that's elementary. So this is why it's important to go ahead and start having these important conversations early. So as providers, advocates, and parents, and family members, nieces and nephews, younger siblings, we have to have the hard conversations. And we also have to become more educated on the topics of drugs and alcohol. And I think by everyone participating, whether you are logged in or watching the stream through Facebook, you're on the right track. This is the type of things that we need to be doing because things are constantly changing. Fentanyl was not even what it is now 10 years ago. I know I didn't know anything about it. I didn't hear anything about it. This is very new. So it's very important to stay current with information because it's constantly changing. Joyce kind of touched on brain development a little bit during her presentation, but so through the early adolescence to the mid to late 20s, which is really about 25, the brain is still developing and it develops unevenly. And there's a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex that's responsible for impulse control, more reasoned thought, good judgment, decision-making skills. All of that develops a lot later than the rest of the brain. And you can tell this pattern of brain development if you have like any teens or youth around you, because a lot of the times they have difficulty holding back or controlling emotions, a preference for high excitement or exploration of new activities, inadequate planning and limited judgment, and just more apt to engage in more risky and impulsive behaviors. So unfortunately, developing brains are more susceptible than the brains of adults to damage from outside influence. So that means that substance abuse and alcohol usage during teen years creates more of a distinct risk for immediate and lasting harm. And because the internal reward systems are still being developed, the teen's ability to bounce back to normal after using substances or alcohol, even if it's not binge drinking, that may be compromised for the rest of their life. So it's very important to talk to them about this. And that's exactly what we can do. That's the thing that we can do about it to try to combat these outside influences. We need to talk to the teens and young people in our lives about the dangers of consuming drugs and alcohol, especially alcohol before you're 21. So don't just limit. If you have a 20-year-old child, you still need to have the conversation. They're not too old until they're 21 and up. And even then, you still need to have conversations with them about being responsible when they do become of legal age. So when talking to them, I have about 5 tips that I'm going to go over to kind of help you have that conversation. So the first thing you can do is show that you disapprove of underage drinking and other drug misuse. Over 80% of young people ages 10 to 18 say their parents are the leading influence on their decision whether or not to drink. So you need to send a clear and strong message that you disapprove of underage drinking and the misuse of other drugs. If the environment at home is that drugs and alcohol are a joke or it's funny or things like that, the kids and the youth in your life is not going to be a big deal to them because it doesn't appear to be a big deal to you. And it may very well be a big deal to you, but you have to show them that it's a big deal and talk to them and let them know that it's a big deal. The second thing you can do is show that you care about your child's health, wellness, and success. Young people are more likely to listen when they know you're on their side. So you can reinforce why you don't want them to drink or use drugs. And you can just kind of say, because you want them to be happy and safe. The conversation will go a whole lot better if you're open and show concern. That means that if you talk to them about their total wellness, because as Joyce said, she touched on about signs of suicide, all of this, substance abuse, alcohol, misuse, this all ties into mental and physical health. So you can talk to them about their overall wellness and they'll be more open to that, because if your children know, or the youth in your life know that you just want them to be happy and successful and want what's best for them, they're a lot more open to hear what it is that you have to say versus you just coming in and just saying, don't do this, don't do that, because I said so, so just kind of tailor your approach. The third thing you can do is to show you're a good source of information about alcohol and other drugs. You want your child or the youth in your life to make informed decisions about alcohol and other drugs with reliable information about their dangers. I know I kind of touched on it before. That means you have got to stay up to date on what is happening. You have to basically continue your education constantly about alcohol and other drugs, because these street drugs, there's so many and they all go by different names, and the names that we once knew, even, they're not even called that anymore. So it's important. You don't want the youth in your life to learn about alcohol and other drugs from unreliable sources, AKA their friends, their peers, their older cousin that's really only like 2 years older than them and still don't know, so you need to establish yourself as a trustworthy source of information. The fourth thing you can do is show you're paying attention, and it will discourage risky behaviors. So if you show that you're aware of what your child or youth is up to, and they'll be less likely to indulge in that. So young people are more likely to drink or use other drugs if they think nobody will notice, AKA if they think nobody's paying attention. And you can do this in a subtle way without prying. And the way to do that is not just to show you're paying attention right when you want to just have this conversation. You need to show that you're paying attention to them on a daily basis by asking them open-ended follow-up questions about how their day was, how the relationships with their friends are, what is going on in those conversations, how are their friends' home lives. If they're dating, you need to learn about who they're dating open-endedly without showing judgment. Ask them about their school projects, their likes, dislikes, hobbies, music, whatever. Just show that you are paying attention to them and you care about what's important to them. And that will build a trust and that will build a rapport. The fifth thing you can do is you can build your child's skills and strategies for avoiding underage drinking and drug use. And so even if you don't think your child wants to drink or try other drugs, peer pressure, which was on Joyce's list in her first PowerPoint, peer pressure is super powerful. Peer pressure is powerful for some adults. So I'm pretty sure you guys remember when you were younger and teens, the pressure to do certain things, whether it was positive or negative. But having a plan to avoid alcohol and drug use can really help them make better choices. So talk with your child or youth about what they would do if faced with a decision about alcohol or drugs, such as texting a code word to a family member or practicing how they will say no. This is one of the things that you guys can do. It doesn't have to be a formal sit down talk. You can do it while they're helping you folding laundry, while they're doing yard work, or just in a group. You can do a little bit of role playing and just help them come up with a plan. Because if there's a plan in place, then it's safer. They don't have to think on their feet. They don't have to, even if it's like, okay, just say you blame me, blame your mama, tell them I won't let you do such and such. If they're afraid that they'll look a certain kind of way in front of their peers. And just remember that you don't have to get everything across in one talk. And honestly, you can't get everything across in one talk. This is going to take multiple short talks. This is a ongoing conversation. In the same way that you have to continue your education as advocates, parents, and youth workers, this will have to be a continued conversation in short bursts. So I encourage you guys to go ahead and start that conversation today. And if you can, and also share some of these tips with some of the other adults and parents in your life that you think may have some trouble starting this conversation, because it can be kind of difficult, but difficult does not mean impossible. SAMHSA actually has a campaign called Talk, They Hear You. I put that link inside the chat box, and they are a really good resource just for conversation topics. They have some videos as well as other information to kind of help guide you through this, because like I said, it can be difficult, but it can be done. And it's important to be done, because it may save your child's life or a youth's life, or you never know, some of the things that you talk with your youth about, they may talk to their friends about it and it may save one of their friends' lives. You never know. So make sure that, like I said, you follow us on Facebook and all of our other social media platforms, just so you'll be aware of other events like this and in-person events that the agency will have as a whole. I will take a look now. If you guys, does anybody have any questions? If so, you can either unmute yourself or type it in the chat. So I'll allow a couple of minutes, because I know lunch is about up. So does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, all right, then I'll let you guys go ahead and get back to your day. And once again, I thank you so much for taking time out to join us for this Lunch and Learn. Thank you, Trudy. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.